I would have been able to take on a higher risk tolerance, because like you say, you have less liabilities, your ability to take risk, and if things go pear-shaped, you know, you can not have to worry about the fact that you've got children to feed or a mortgage to pay.
What's up, world, and welcome to another episode of the Super Investor Show. Now, I'm fanboying here because if you know me, you know I love three things in life: my fiance, XRP, and of course HBAR. They are equal. They're both my joint loves. And of course, can't forget my fiance. Well, today we have arguably one of the biggest voices and a man who I think I've known since I've gotten into the space as well. Coinman the HBARbarian, who I believe, fun fact, and he'll correct me, he actually coined the term HBARbarian. But we'll bring him on to fact check me in a second, so there's no false news on here. Most importantly, though, who is he? He has garnished an incredible following of HBARbarians, as once again he coins himself and the term. But more importantly, to be such an advocate for the technology at this period of time, coming up to November 2022, HBAR still isn't sexy, but it is to those who know about it. So to be talking and screaming about it the way he does, it's truly remarkable. And I'm honored to have him on because he doesn't do many video interviews. So please give him a warm welcome as I welcome up Coinman the HBARbarian.
Hi, Jordan. It's good to be on.
Likewise.
And it's true about the HBARbarian coining that phrase. Yes, I did coin it in 2009. Being a memer, I'm always looking for puns and things like that. And it had its genesis in the Hedera Telegram group in the summer of 2019. And I was having a back and forth with Sharky Rob, who's quite big in the Hedera space. And Coinman the HBARbarian came out as a little in-joke. It's a play on Conan the Barbarian, which is a fantasy film from the 80s. And it just kind of stuck. And I've been Coinman ever since.
I love it. And now you've passed on your powers to your loyal servants, which I'm one of them.
And the thing about HBARbarians is I see it as a kind of a ragtag group of HBAR fans. And anyone can pick up that moniker and run with it. You know, I don't see me as some sort of central figure or anything like that. It's a decentralized term, if you want to put it that way.
True to the theme. Well, thank you for adding on to my little fun fact, which hopefully now everyone else can now run and spread the good word about HBARbarians. But before we do that, so we've broken down half your name, but how would you define Coinman the HBARbarian? How did you get into this space?
Yeah, sure. So the funny thing with me is I wasn't into crypto at all. I was looking for a way to invest in gold, actually. And a friend of mine put me on to Mike Maloney, who's the gold expert. And somehow or another, I came across his Bitcoin to Hashgraph video, which is in one of his series. And I watched that, and I was just spellbound by the technology. And particularly Dr. Lehman Baird, who invented the Hashgraph. And ever since then, I've just kind of been fascinated by the technology. And I guess that's my route into crypto. It just happened to be around about that time, the network was preparing to go public. And there was a website called the Daily Timestamp. And you could earn HBAR just from reading articles. And again, that fascinated me that, you know, this cryptocurrency was so inexpensive to use and so liquid in a way. And it just sort of drew me in. And so I was one of those guys who aped into HBAR on the 16th of September, 2019. And I've held it ever since. I think I've sold a little bit at certain points, but generally I've diamond handed it.
Beautiful, beautiful. And our stories are rather similar, and I think a lot of people will be able to relate to the Mike Maloney documentary. That it's, I always say luck does play an element. There's no two ways about it, right? Because you were ready to receive that message at the time. You know, a year early, would you have been open to investing? Who knows? So thank you, Mike, for getting 2 people into HBAR. I'm sure thousands of us as well. Now, secondly, which I want to dig a little bit deeper, is would you say you're a HBAR maximalist?
Right. Okay. I would say not. I think I started out as one because I was fanatical about it and I didn't know much about space. But as I've been in the space now for 3 years, I've looked at the other platforms and protocols. And although I do think HBAR solves a lot of problems, I can see a multi-chain world, and I can see various reasons for that being the case. So yeah, I'm totally big on HBAR, but not to the exclusion of all other protocols, I would say.
That's refreshing.
Yeah, my bag is mainly HBAR.
And hey, I can't blame you when you know the right answer. It's a shame to, you know, diversify too far away. Are you open to talking about 2 or 1 other protocols that have your eye at the moment?
Well, I can see the value of Bitcoin. I can see how it is the granddaddy of crypto, and I can see how a lot of people, including myself at times, have took shots at it. But really, it is such an astonishing thing that Satoshi Nakamoto put out there that I really think Bitcoin has got a place in the annals for a good few years to come.
Yeah,
I do see coins like HBAR, utility coins that are so flexible and cheap to use and sustainable. I see them taking a big market share. And of course, it's not financial advice, but that is my kind of thesis on HBAR.
And it's a great thesis. If you don't mind me following up on that thesis point before we get into the 2 main questions about you as a personal investor, have you ever thought about your thesis being wrong? Yes.
I think increasingly as you go on in the world of investing, you have to, first thing you have to do is you have to keep learning and keep ahead of the curve. And secondly, you have to humble yourself to question whether your investment choices are wise. And I think when you start out in investing, you find something, you get FOMO, you ape in, you think this is the greatest thing in the world, what could possibly go wrong? And then as things goes on, you discover that there's outside forces that play on your investment choices, and that kind of humbles you. So yes, it's as you go on, I think you learn to question again what you're doing and whether it's a wise decision to keep holding or to buy more or to sell.
I'm so glad you said that, and maybe it'll come to a shock to many, you know, that you, Coinman the HBARbarian, has come out and said, yeah, you know what, I have played out the worst case scenario. And you're not the only one. Every single investor we've had on the show to date so far has said the exact same. In fact, arguably, some of the best investors, whether because they're ahead of their time or they are already established as the best investors, have all said that it's all about how long can you play the game? Can you bat another day? Number 1, protect the house, e.g. protect your current lifestyle. Number 2, if you are wrong, do you still have a ticket? Do you still have a lottery ticket? And of course, referring to crypto as a lottery ticket, I don't want anyone to see that as gambling or connotations there, but you pinpointed it perfectly, which was external forces do come into play, and you need a flexible plan to be able to adapt to that. So thank you for giving a perspective, which not everyone wants to hear, but they need to. So now, Coinman, we come into finding about you a little bit more. If we haven't done so already, we are now, because the whole point of the show is to reveal the true identity. So the first question is, what is your superpower as a super investor?
Okay, well, first of all, I don't really consider myself to have a superpower because I am just another guy who's investing in my eyes. But it leads on from what we were just talking about, really, and that is the power of perspective and restraint. When I got into crypto, I did not bet the farm, and I think there's a lot of guys. I mean, I'm not particularly young anymore. I'm Generation X, but guys in their 20s and 30s who really, they're looking for a way to break out of their lane, and something like crypto comes along, and you see these incredible gains happening overnight. And I've seen it in the Telegram groups. I've seen it in various places where someone comes along, gets super excited about it, and they just ape in all their money, and they take out loans and things like this, and they expect number to only go up. And of course, in the real world, like we were saying, outside forces come into play, things like wars in foreign countries, and the market tanks. And I went into crypto with a vague understanding that it was a very bad idea to put all of my disposable income into a volatile asset like cryptocurrency. And even now, I kind of feel even more so that way, because as we were saying, that wisdom comes into play, and you start to see, you color in the picture, and you see the things that can occur. So yeah, I would say, if you want to call it a superpower, is to just step back and think about the things that can go wrong, and not just the things that can go right. Because it's really great to think about the things that can go right. It gives you adrenaline rush, you know. It's what the world runs on. But it's harder to step back and think about the things that can go wrong. And I think anyone who's going to be in the cryptocurrency market and not blow their account up needs to consider that. And that's not to be a killjoy and pour water on it, because the other reason I'm in this is because it's incredibly exciting. The innovation is every week, you know, there's new stuff coming out, and I really do feel like we're on the cutting edge of technology, you know, with DeFi and NFTs and what those things are going to become. And you know, I do speculatively buy into those areas of cryptocurrency, but I don't bet the farm on them. And that would be my advice to someone coming in for the next bull run, because we are in this crypto winter right now. Those coming into this space for the next bull run, yes, throw a bit of money at it, but don't bet the farm. And that's what I would do. I'm not giving financial advice, just to make that clear.
Oh, we've said it once. We don't need to again. I'm so glad that you are pouring water on this topic, right? And if there is a time to pour water, it is during this bear market, whilst things are boring, right? So if you are watching this, you're in the right place, because you're learning whilst things are not emotionally charged right now. Yes, I do want to challenge you a little bit, Coinman, and I don't want to give you my stance yet. I want to see your opinion, which is, do you think there's ever a scenario where a person could take out a loan and invest in crypto? Are you completely teetotal? No debts at all?
No, I'm not against it. I mean, people can do what they want to do, but I'm just talking in a general sense that it can be easy to do, to buy crypto on a credit card or whatever. You know, anyone could do that. But I think if you're going to borrow money to speculate on a volatile asset, you've kind of got to know what you're doing. And you've got to go into it eyes wide open. And very few people do the due diligence to understand the risks, I believe.
Yeah, it's something which I thought was a lie when I started out. You know, credit, stay away from it, full stop. But as I've come to learn, like you just said, it's perspective. If someone is a father and they have kids, and they have X amount of income and X amount of outgoings, well, now if you've got kids, you've got 2 extra liabilities. And I don't want to say kids are liabilities.
They're No, I understand exactly what you mean.
Yeah, they interchange, right? They go from being an asset 1 minute to being a liability the next. So we know for a fact that being a human alone, we are a liability ourselves. That if we lose our jobs, now we've got to cover X amount of months without income. If our kids lose their jobs or our kids want to pursue a career, now we need to, out of thin air, come up with some money, for example. And that's one advice I've been giving my friends in my circle who are in their 20s, who don't have kids, who aren't married, who do still live at home. Their risk tolerance can be a lot higher.
Yeah.
Because if it goes worst case scenario, you're with mum, you're not paying rent, it's okay.
Yeah.
You can recover.
You make a very good point there, Jordan. It does depend so much on your personal circumstances. I mean, I wasn't into investing when I was a young lad. But if I was, I would have been able to take on a higher risk tolerance. Because like you say, you have less liabilities, your ability to take risk, and if things go pear-shaped, you know, you can not have to worry about the fact that you've got children to feed or a mortgage to pay or whatever other liability you might have. So yeah, it all depends on your personal circumstances.
Not having to speak personally from, of course, your perspective, but from what you know from people around you, do you think being a parent makes you a better investor?
I don't think it particularly does, no. It maybe gives you some perspective on why you're investing. You know, when you become a parent, you stop thinking so much about the Lambo you want to buy, and possibly more about the Christmas presents you want to get your kids, or the trust you want to put money in for them, or whatever, you know. So perhaps.
I think that perhaps is perfectly put. It really is. Because like we just said, assets, liabilities, you know, having the kids takes money away from the money you could put in crypto, but at the same time, your perspective changes because now you're not taking out all your money at 50 cents when HBAR hits that again. You're now taking out 10% because you're thinking that's not going to be enough money for the kids' trust. There was an interesting tweet by Watcher Guru on Twitter. And they said that the millennials, or my generation right now, they will need $3 million US to retire comfortably. And for a lot of people, that's a scary number. Do you think, I know we're in the UK, do you think that number's accurate?
Seems like quite a lot, to be honest.
Yeah. It's good. I mean, in pounds, I know the pound's falling and the dollar keeps increasing. But, you know, we're talking about what, £2.5 million retirement. Again, it seems impossible because how do you get there for many people? Yeah. And I always say work backwards. And I think that's what crypto is for many people. It is one vehicle. Because you said you started off investing in gold. Do you mind sharing, Coinman? Is your portfolio diversified across asset classes?
No, I didn't actually end up investing in gold because what it was a crypto coin that was backed by gold. And I looked into it.
Yeah.
And something didn't sit right. So I didn't end up investing in that particular scheme, which was proven out to be a scam, by the way.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say PAX-G. But
no, it wasn't that. No, it was a different one.
PAX-G then.
No, I don't want to give them any publicity, so but it wasn't that particular one. Wow. So yeah, I had a guess a near miss there. I wasn't planning on putting a lot into it, so there you go. But yeah, that led me to HBAR.
Wow, what a blessing! What a blessing! And again, I think that's one thing that people look at you, and I said this, of course, offline, that as influencers, a godlike aura, right? That everything you touch is a success. And HBAR, we know for sure, it's still early. It's still ahead of its time. And I can't say that the final whistle has been blown to say, yep, you were right yet. But you've also just shared with us, like, hey, look, you're vulnerable as well. You are going to make mistakes on this journey, myself included as well. Before we move on to your weakness, over time, how have you been able to identify the good to the bad projects?
I think greed plays a big part. If you can see the greed, and you can see the sort of outlandish claims, then that's a red flag. So yeah, I think if you get caught up in it, you can be blinded to the fact that there are red flags everywhere. So I think it's just stepping back and looking at it from a human perspective and think, who's getting rich here? How are they getting rich? You know, with HBAR, I see it differently because of the founders and the way they are building slowly, building methodically.
Yeah,
it's a world apart from some scheme that pops up and promises, you know, incredible returns overnight. So yeah, just having that restraint again, I think.
And I feel that restraint only comes from being surrounded by people like yourself who can keep you grounded, right? I believe Twitter has been the #1 tool for me for making my wealth. If someone said to me, you can only have one tool for the rest of your life for financial literacy, I'd say Twitter. Because if you follow the right people, and I generally see you as one of them, you become a virtual mentor to me. And I see you all the time. You do engage with people who reach out to you, not everyone, because that'd be unrealistic. But that's the beautiful thing is I know for a fact, Coinman, if someone was feeling that greed, they could say, hey, tag Coinman, what do you think about this project? And you would give your 2 cents. Without that communication, that naive young investor, which I still feel I am sometimes, can be led astray. So who in your life has put their arm around you and guided you as a mentor?
I mean, in this particular context, I would say people like Lehman Baird and Mance Harmon.
Wow.
The way they conduct themselves impresses me, to be honest. You know, I know people have their gripes, but I look at people's actions, and the way they speak, the way they engage or don't engage, and I see in those two a kind of blueprint in a way. And I think you'll find in the HBARbarian community at large that their influence filters down to the Hedera community, by and large. You know, there's all sorts, you know, in the crypto community, but Hedera does seem to have a certain flavor to it, and I think in part that's due to Lehman Baird and Mance Harmon, and that's kind of shaped me in this space.
Wow, that's an incredible compliment to them. If they don't know that already, I hope they do hear that from you at some point. Have you been in touch with the founders at some point in Twitter Spaces, maybe?
Not directly. I've had a little bit of banter before town halls when they have the messages open, but not directly. No, I haven't done a Max Walker-Williams interview or anything like that.
That's incredible. And I know Max. People again at home who may not know who Max is. I don't know his Twitter handle off the top of my head. But what's his full name again?
Max Walker-Williams.
Yes, if you type that into YouTube, you'll see he's another Brit who's incredibly articulate, explaining this abstract technology. He's also an investor into hotels, if I'm correct, luxury hotels.
Yeah, I believe so. He's a conventional businessman, but he's very he's got his fingers in a lot of crypto stuff as well. Yeah, very talented and driven individual from my perspective. Yes.
He really is. He really is. And so these are the type of people which, like you said, like attracts like. I'm sure in due time, Coinman, you'll be sat in front of Mance and Lehman in no time. Giving them I'm sure you will. But before we wrap things up, there's one final question I want to ask you. Although I say that, I'm sure there might be one or two follow-up ones, which is, we've talked about your strengths and what makes you and what's protected you along your investing journey, but what is your kryptonite? What is your weakness as a super investor?
I would say procrastination is probably one of my weaknesses. It's kind of the other side of the coin of being too restrained. It's looking at things and seeing 100 ways they can go wrong and not seeing the ways they can go right. So this is one of my weaknesses, is I do tend to procrastinate. And yeah, so there'll be things that I think are great opportunities, but my mind will go straight to, well, how can this go wrong? You know, how can this situation cause me grief 10 steps down the line? And that leads to procrastination.
Procrastination of not investing, like delaying, or
yeah, in this context, maybe it could be to do with starting a project or getting involved with something, because as a person on Twitter, I do get quite a lot of people offer me things, and my natural inclination is to think, okay, how can this go wrong? You know, if I get involved in this, am I putting myself in the firing line? And perhaps other people are kind of throw caution to the wind. And what's the saying? I can't remember the saying now. But yeah, the person who's brave wins, essentially. And sometimes I feel like I'm not brave enough in certain situations. Wow. And that may be partly because of what I would consider my other weakness, and that is my kind of introversion. I'm in a very extrovert industry, particularly as someone on Twitter, which is a very toxic arena. And it kind of suits people that are outspoken and want to say things and want to be heard and want everyone to come around to their point of view. Yeah. And I'm the type of person who's quite introverted. I like to say things, but I like to hear other people's perspectives, and I like to be thoughtful about those perspectives. And Twitter's not always the best arena for that kind of thing. So I find myself in a strange position, being an introvert in an extrovert world.
It certainly is a bold move that you make, and by the way, probably make every single day logging on, right? Because it's not like it's a switch and it went over time. Would you say you still are an introvert?
I would say my journey as someone in the public eye for HBAR has helped me come out of my shell a bit.
Good.
But at heart, I think I'm still an introvert. I would be the guy in the pub who's in the corner gently nursing a pint, and someone else who's got all their mates around them regaling them with stories. Yeah. I would be the guy sat at the back.
And I would be the guy.
Because on Twitter, I'm the opposite. So
do you feel do you feel, you know, we talk about pseudonymity, you know, in crypto. Do you feel then that crypto Twitter gives you a kind of a shield of protection?
Yes, I do feel having a certain level of pseudonymity helps, because it feels more like a job then. I mean, I'm not hiding my true identity because I don't want to be known, really. It's more a case of, it feels like a mode you go into, a job, a character you put on. And it's not a complete act. I mean, this is me.
Yeah.
But I'm Coinman in this context. So, yeah, pseudonym, I can't say the word. Pseudonymity.
The P word, yeah.
It does help. It's a bit like, I would imagine, you know, when you're in a profession, you put on that uniform. If you're a policeman, you know, you put on that uniform, you become that authority figure. Or, you know, any other particular profession you want to name.
So here's an interesting question, which is, so you put on this outfit, metaphorically speaking. You go to work as Coinman the HBARbarian.
I don't have a helmet with horns on, by the way.
Next time round. Has Coinman ever brought back work into the real world?
I think it's inevitable. Yeah, it's the work-life balance is tricky because cryptocurrency is a global phenomenon. Everyone's in different time zones.
Yeah,
you know, you want to get in on a mint and it's at 3 o'clock in the morning. Or there's a Twitter space you want to listen to and it's at 9 o'clock at night. And yeah, it's it does bleed into real life, but yeah, you have to find ways of limiting that, I think, and keeping it in perspective, because you can burn out. I mean, and I think a lot of people do come into this space and they go at it great guns, and after a few weeks or months they burn out, either because they're pushing too much content too quickly, or family issues blow up. So you've really got to find that that happy place in between, the balance.
You do, and I mean, it speaks volumes to your superpower, which is you haven't just come on here and said, yeah, I have this marvelous superpower. You're living proof. You know, you heard about Hedera, was it 2019 or 2009?
2019.
2019, of course.
Yeah.
And of course, we know the story that Mans Lehman only really started working back on Hedera Hashgraph in 2008 when the white paper came out. But yeah, and they're what, 3 years old? So you've been there from the inception. And
Yeah.
to say that you're still here, which for some people who aren't in crypto, 3 years, that's like 30 years. And when, like you said, when you are living and breathing this, especially a content creator like yourself, life continues, right? We have deaths in the family, you have successes in the real world, you'll have arguments with your spouse, and then you've got to come onto a Twitter space, and everyone expects Coinman the HBARbarian to come on, not personal identity who is now heavily grieving because of what's happened in the real world. And I really thank you for that personally. And I say that on behalf of the community, because I also know how it feels. I decided to go with my identity because I thought it'd be easier, you know. So hey, it's me, George. And so when you meet
it's horses for courses, it depends what you want to achieve, doesn't it? Yeah,
you're not wrong. For me, I thought it would be tiring having a pseudonymity, right? Because I had to. I was under, definitely speaking to you, stereotype that when I come online I have to speak like someone else, and I have to dress like someone else, and I have to make sure I constantly do not leave traces of my personal identity around, right? I don't know if that was the right decision, because I'll never know what option B would have been, but it's lovely sitting down with you, who you've been able to kind of merge the two, where you can come on camera, show your face, but you've got pseudonymity.
yeah, I know there's a spectrum, isn't there? Some people want to be completely unknown and just be completely anonymous, and other people's maybe overshare too much, you know. I'm quite happy sitting somewhere in the middle where people can see I'm a real person.
Yeah.
This is what I'm like in real life, more or less. But yeah, you know, I'm just Coinman.
And we wouldn't want anything else, I'll tell you that.
Thank you.
Well, that's been remarkable for a number of reasons. Selfishly, as a content creator as well, you know, I do look at you as what's the right thing to do. So thank you for giving me better insights.
You're welcome.
And I'm sure there's someone who's sitting on the fence who either is trying to create content and wants to emulate what you've done, or maybe I've done. What would you say to that budding influencer content creator in the space right now?
I would say, and this is just me, I would say be authentic. Don't try and create this big character that you've then got to feed and maintain. People connect with authenticity. You know, people quite easily see through the act. You know, sooner or later. So I would say just take what's authentic about you, what makes you you, and weave that into the content you're making. You know, if you're a funny guy, use humor. There's people out there, you know, many people know Matt Chase, who's a YouTuber, does a lot of Hedera videos. He uses his humor, and it's authentic, and people love that. If you're a super clever guy, you know, like Danny Eade, who's also in Hedera, he puts out fantastic, quite cerebral posts, and does a lot of digging in the community. But it's him, it's Danny, and it's Matt. So yeah, fine, just be yourself and start like that.
Beautiful. I don't have anything else to add to that, and I wish I had at the beginning as well. It's be your authentic self, because it's tiring trying to be something else. It really is. Well, look, Coinman, I'm glad we finally made this happen. I know you have some projects.
Been a pleasure to be on.
Thank you, sir. I know you've got some projects on the horizon, which we won't talk about right now. But how can people keep up to date with you if they aren't following you already?
Yeah, sure. So I'm mainly on Twitter. My handle is Barbarian, BAR HBARIAN. You'll find me if you type in Hedera. I'm also sort of hang around on Discord in the various NFT groups. You'll find me in the Telegram groups, the Hedera and HBAR Lounge Telegram groups. Nice. Yeah, so that's kind of where I hang out.
Incredible. And it goes without saying, the cliche, we'll put all those links down below so you can go stalk him, healthily stalk him. Going, man. Please stick around. We'll catch up off stage. But thank you again for your time.
Thanks, Jordan. It's been a pleasure.
Likewise. Woo! See, I told you it was going to be a good one. I told you. So for everyone who have been following Coinman, you can see he is a real person. He has pseudonymity. And as he said, he's Coinman online and he's Coinman in real life. IRL, a new term I learned last week. So as I always say, if you've learned one thing today, please come back next week. If you haven't, well, you're just going to have to come back next week anyway and see who we have on. With that being said, have a fantastic Monday, and I'll see you when I see you. Ciao for now.